Thank you for joining me on the journey. This is Completed Christianity. So, welcome back. Another episode of Being Complete. And today is fifth day, what they say. And last time we talked about Daystar. We're going to continue on with that today. And today we're talking about Daystar and how it relates to that everything that you know is a lie. And when we take a look at this, jump over here, let's see, right here. So this article, what if everything you believe in is a lie? And it says, what if everything you believe in is a lie? How could this be, you ask? Can I have lived a lifetime, no matter how long or short, worked so hard and learned so many lessons of so many of life's lessons, and have someone tell me that I have come to believe what I've come to believe is a lie? So here it cites Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, and although quite surface level and trite, it's begin early in life with these things that we believe, and then they're just not true, and oftentimes we're sold these lies by well-meaning and even Christian people, and these things should not be so. But like with Daystar, we talked about last time how that these people likely aren't genuine. All this allegedly, okay, for legal purposes. So these people aren't genuine. At the top, all the way at the top, these people aren't genuine. These people are there, and they are basically towing a party line. They are playing ball. They are doing what they need to do to keep their power, influence, esteem, and income. And so there's an overall machine out there that controls everything. Like we mentioned before, with Daystar, it's not $1 billion plus entity, and it's like bucking the system. If you're playing at that level, you're playing ball with the system, with the beast system. And so these people, we talked about last time that they're part of what we called the CR. And if you missed the last video, you don't know what the CR is, you gotta go back to that. You gotta find out, what is this CR? This CR is what controls everything, what controls our government, and it controls these people. And its intent to bring everybody back to a certain mindset and a certain understanding, or to bring you back to where you just bend and bow to this certain understanding. And this certain understanding is going back to where everybody is Catholic like they were in the Dark Ages, before the Protestant Reformation. And so before, we talked about the Lambs, and we talked about Robert Morris, and to add a couple more in here, you have like the Sean Bowles, Bill Johnson, Chris Valaton. These people are still in that level, and they're still these people that are playing ball with the beast system. And of course, all is allegedly. So also, like with the IHOP KC, this prophet, close ties to IHOP, is a complete fraud, his son says. And so this is similar to Benny Hinn, where Benny Hinn's nephew says, yeah, Benny Hinn's just a fraud. And over here, this story behind Hillsong Church, New York, amid cheating scandal. Okay, who cares for men like Brian Houston? In the same month, Hillsong is accused in Australia Parliament of fraud. Accused of fraud. Carl Lentz of the Hillsong New York, his wife Laura on a cheating scandal again, and so fraud, tax fraud, on and on and on. And so these people don't have the kind of integrity that you would expect, the kind of integrity you expect from people who espouse adherence to the scriptures. These people are part of a plan. They're part of a machine. So here, this is on NAACP, and it's the spread of disinformation and how we respond. And they put up this quote from William J. Casey here, CIA director from 1981. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. And so it goes on. Nearly 40 years later, the words of William J. Casey, CIA director, still resound as we sit just weeks away from a moment of reckoning for our democracy. Here's one thing we know for certain: the proclamation that Director Casey made is far from complete. Okay? But we know that there has been no lack of attempts made in doing so. And so they put up this on NAACP, and they're giving this quote that we'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. And NAACP asserts that since 1981, they're still working on this campaign, that everything you believe is false. It's just like the pandemic, trust the science. And most people came to understand that there was no science. There was nothing to trust. Okay? And so these people, they intend to create falsehood in this arena and in that arena, in the arena of religion, in the arena of science, in the arena of healthcare, and to where all you begin to have is distrust on this part of religion or this part of healthcare and stuff like that, and it's to drive you to something that's more conservative, and in the end, they want to present the Catholic Church as the answer to all of this. That they're the only thing that you can come back to and be safe, and the only thing that you can come back to and trust. They want to claim that what we said 2,000 years ago is the same thing we're saying right now, which is obviously false because they change things along the way. But they're not going to see that. And so, spread of disinformation. Also, somewhat controversial quote and can be debated. This is the mother of the Rothschild children of Meyer Rothschild, and which is the original Rothschild, and his son. So she says, if my sons did not want wars, there would be none. Going to the idea that the bankers, that they create wars so that they can finance both sides so that they can make all the money, and that in the end, no matter who wins the war, now they control both countries because both countries owe them, they're beholden to them. And so in this video that did on this channel, the 20th Century in Bible Prophecy, highly recommend this. Obviously, it's in our Understanding Revelation playlist, and in this particular, talk about this letter that's attributed to Albert Pike, which you see on the screen here, Albert Pike, and in this letter that he supposedly wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini, Likely he did not write it, but it's attributed to him. And but the thing is whether he wrote it or not, it doesn't change anything. That's the whole oh, this is a fraud thing that people want to say, oh, because Pike didn't write it. Well, the thing is even if it's attributed to him, it doesn't matter if he wrote it, because this letter's been circulated since around the 1880s. Pike died in, I believe, 1891. And so this letter, even if it's fraudulent that Pike wrote it, it's still circulated since 1881, and it tells about 3 world wars. And so on this, with the First World War, where we talk about it in this video, it says that the First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia, which is what happened in the First World War. And so the Illuminati is the front for the CR, and the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds are a front for the CR, and so all of these front people, and even like in Daystar, even if they don't even understand it or know it, they're a front for this CR. And so, as we continue on, this goes down the line: First World War, Second World War, and then even presents a Third World War to come. In this tells you that, okay, however that the wars built up, that it was orchestrated, and there's many other things like this where you can look at things in history and they're presented as organic events, but they're not. They're planned, they're orchestrated, and they're done so with an agenda in mind. And the same thing goes with many doctrines. And in the Protestant Reformation, they were trying to come back to the Scripture, but there's a lot of things that they didn't. It was only a partial Reformation, and especially like with Luther. Luther was known as the go slow theologian to some of the other more radical groups, because Luther, he never meant to be a reformer. He just kind of stumbled into this. He wanted to oppose the indulgences of the church, and have a debate on that. But there was such an outcry of angst against the church at that time, because the people were being extorted so heavily, and so just any reason that they needed to cause a rebellion against the Catholic Church at the time, that's all the people needed, because they were so beat down at the time. And that's why Luther's message just blew up all over Europe. And so this Reformation, it wasn't intended to be a Reformation from the start, and then it turned into a Reformation, but there were still only partial things that were reformed. And one of those things we discussed before was the Sunday worship. That's a Catholic institution, Sunday worship. It wasn't instituted in the first century. It wasn't instituted by the apostles. And we know that in the 4th century, Constantine passes a law against people that are Sabbath keepers, saying that you will worship on the venerable day of the sun. And so these things, there's always an extra little element to plug in, and these things are meant to cause you over time to gravitate to a direction that they want you to gravitate to. And so the Reformation, it was partial. And so when the certain doctrines that were Catholic doctrines that brought in from pagan ideals, they continued on in the Protestant churches, continue even to this day. The biggest of which is probably the enemy, Satan's grandest deception, is that the law of Moses, okay, the law of the Father given through Moses, that law is done away with, or it was diminished, or is, no longer for us, or it's not for, quote, Gentiles, it's for Jews, things of this nature. But here we have in Acts 24:14, and this I confess to you, that according to the way which they call a sect or a heresy, so I worship the mighty one of my fathers, believing all that has been written in the Torah and the prophets, in the law and the prophets. And so this is not something we hear our Christian pastors saying. Our Christian pastors aren't saying, I believe all that's been written in the law of Moses. Okay? No, they're saying, no, believe that's done away with. Believe we don't do that anymore. Believe that's not for us. No. Paul's saying he believes in all that stuff. He believes it. He does that. And in this particular passage, he's defending himself against accusation that he teaches contrary to the law. And he's like, no, I believe all that's been written in the law. And so these things that are meant to, these things in the world that are obviously evil, they're meant to push us toward the pure evil, the true evil. Okay? They're meant to remove you from a foundation in the scriptures so that you can have a foundation in tradition. Psalm 89:34, my covenant I will not break nor alter the word that has gone out of my lips. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Comment down below. Comments of opposition are welcome. Just don't say anything dumb like we're not under the law. We're under grace because you've been taught to use that verse outside of the bounds of its intended context. Subscribe now. Smash that subscribe button and ring that bell so that you get notifications of all future videos.